Hi, and welcome to another Unity C# tutorial. In this tutorial series, I demonstrate common issues that developers may encounter when using Unity and ways to work around them. In this tutorial, we will be covering an issue that I have encountered in the past where SetActive appears to work but does not actually work. So let's just examine how this might happen in one of your own projects. So we're going to create an event system here, and then we're going to create a couple images basically. So that will create a canvas for us automatically, which is what we want, and then we're going to go ahead and duplicate this. So Control D, and now we've got two canvases with three images. So let's pop this into 2D. We'll zoom out a little bit here, and then we'll line all three images up side by side. So we have image 1, image 2, and image 3. And on our first image, we're basically just going to make this a worker that's going to tell the other two guys to do their work. So let's just create a C# script for that really quickly. And actually, we'll just call it our, boss script. All right, and we'll go into our boss script. And on our boss script, we might as well let ourselves know it's a boss here, so we'll just create some UI text, and the text will say boss. All right, that looks good, and then we'll just put that in a little bit so that we can see it. Good. And let's do the same thing. I'm just going to duplicate that text twice. We'll pull that other text down to its image, center it so it appears in there, and then pull the second text down underneath this image, and then do the exact same thing, center it so it moves over there, and then we're just going to call this one worker 2, and we're going to call this one worker 1. Okay, so now we have our boss, now we have our workers. So let's go into our boss script, and we're just going to make this thing clickable. So using Unity engine.event systems, and then we're just going to implement the pointer click handler, and then we'll right click on this and go quick actions and refactorings, implement interface, and then we'll need to do something in here. So to actually do something, we're just going to add a couple serialized properties here, and we are going to call this public, and I guess now we need to actually create the worker scripts. So let's just create a worker script. So for that, we will need a public enumerator, and we're going to call it do some work. Let's know that worker script on round I. Okay, great. So now we've got a nice worker script, and our worker script can do some work. So we just need a way to access that now. So we're going to go, public void begin work. And basically, we're just going to tell it start coroutine, do some work. Okay, so now, right, gotta put those brackets in there. Perfect. So now we should be capable of actually doing some work. So what we want to do then now is in our boss script, we're just going to make some public worker script worker 1, and we'll make a reference to worker 2 as well. So public worker script worker 2. Okay, great. So now we've got our references. So now we can go into our boss object, and let's put our boss object on this image right here, the boss image. So we're going to call our boss script there, And then on this image right here, we're going to add the worker script. And then on this image right here, we'll also add a worker script. Okay, so now our scene is set up, and now we have almost everything that we need. So we're going to make some references to those. So image this worker script and image this worker script, and now we have our references. So let's go back into our worker here, and then on click, now we can actually do something. So let's just pretend here our images, they're going to be turned off by default. So this one's not going to be active, and this one's not going to be active. And our boss script is just going to activate the workers and then get them to do some stuff. So let's just make it do that. So we're going to go worker one.gameObject.setActive true, and worker2.gameObject.setActive true. And then we're just going to call worker one.beginWork and worker2.beginWork. Great, so now we've got a nice example scene set up, and we can actually demonstrate this bug. So if we look at this, everything looks fine, and fat-fingered this or whatever, and canvas 2 is inactive when it's not supposed to be. So now we can demonstrate the bug. So let's load our scene here. Now you might be looking at gameObject.setActive, and you might be thinking, well, hey, this is a void, which means it always works, right? False. No, it doesn't. I would expect if it could fail potentially that maybe they'd give you like a Boolean or something, but that's not the case. So what happened here, and Unity isn't going to tell you this. You know, you can turn on the warnings and you won't really see any indication. What happened was our canvas was inactive, and nothing under a canvas can successfully be set to active if its canvas is inactive. So that's why it said coroutine couldn't be started, because the game object in image is inactive. So let's basically, we're just gonna check that canvas, and we're gonna run this again. And now let's see what happens. I can hit the boss unit, my two workers come out, and my worker scripts go through 200 rounds, because apparently I added an extra 0. Either way, it looks good though, because you can see each of the worker scripts worked. So if you get this issue that I just demonstrated before, that error message in your inspector that coroutine couldn't be started because the game object is inactive right after you set it to active, well, you might want to add something in your script like this, basically. So what I would do is if worker1.gameObject.is do I have to do the transform? There's supposed to be an isActive and enabled property that I can use on this. Well, we can still use this. .ActiveSelf equals true. Then we're going to begin the work, and we're going to do the same thing for worker2 here. So if worker2.gameObject.ActiveSelf equals true, begin work. So now let's see what happens when we run this again. Wow, so that isn't working. Just a second. What's the Unity command for this? active and enabled. Oh, right, I have to add it. Yeah, okay, my bad. It's actually literally right off of the object. So let's try that again. Is active, there we go. Is active and enabled equals true. Right, because it's actually off of a mono behavior, not off of a game object. So let's try this again. We're gonna jump into the thing here as soon as it's done compiling. We're going to click on the boss, and now our worker 1 finally gets activated and succeeds, and worker 2 doesn't attempt to start because we did this is active and enabled check. So it can be a good thing when you're running things to do something like this. Always perform a check, and maybe write a debug .log message just letting yourself know that worker could not be set to active. Otherwise, if you get this message, then what you're probably experiencing is perhaps one of your canvases was not set to active, and that's why it didn't work. So let's just do an example of that real quick here. We can go to play. We're going to click on boss. Now we get our worker 1. It goes through, and if we look up at the very top, I feel like it didn't compile or something like that. Whoops, I forgot to put the else statement in there. Okay, let's try that again. So, there. Okay, and now if we press play and we click on our boss unit, worker 1 shows up, and up at the top there we get this debug.log, worker 2 could not be set to active. So if you get that error message that a coroutine couldn't be started because the object is inactive and you're pretty sure you set the object to active, then make sure that the canvases above it are active too, because if it's anything above its hierarchy is inactive, then it won't be able to do anything. So if you enjoyed that, then as always, thumbs up the video, or subscribe to the Cohesion YouTube channel, or just leave a note in the comments telling me that you liked it or what you'd like to see. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time.